What is good, everybody? Welcome to Stats and Cohn and the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Grant Cohn. Look at you, Grant, outside on a Wednesday. Looking good over there.
It's really quite crisp in Northern California today. I'd have to describe the weather as crisp, like a Honeycrisp apple that's been in the refrigerator for a few hours. It's nice. It's really nice.
You sound very zen right now.
Thank you. I'm going to do PBS voice, NPR voice the entire show. Here to talk about the 49ers. Really excited. So excited. You could hear it in my voice that I want to talk about football. It's going to be nice. It's going to be a good thing.
49ers are coming off a classic win over the Jaguars. Did you see the video of the Jags fan leaving the stadium saying that it was like a home game for the Niners and that even the weather looked like San Francisco because it was overcast?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that should be expected because the Jaguars don't have fans. So when you don't have fans, you end up getting your stadium filled by the other team. I mean, ask the Rams. This happens a lot of times when the Niners go on the road.
Moon Man says Grant looks like a 50-year-old man. I don't think that's mean. Want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe to both YouTube channels, the Grant Cohn YouTube channel and the Gold Standard Network YouTube channel. What's up?
Can I say something? Yes. The guy called me a 50-year-old man. That's fine. I just want to say that I made an eggplant parm last night.
I saw.
It was the coach's recipe. It took me like 2.5 hours. I just want to say that. So yeah, this 50-year-old man can cook.
Wait, 2.5 hours?
Oh my goodness! It took forever. You have to cut the eggplant. You have to salt the eggplant. That takes an hour. And then while you're doing that, you got to make the marinara from scratch. And then you got to, dredge the eggplant, batter the eggplant, fry the eggplant, bake the egg. It's a lot of stuff, but I did it. No problem. Oh, look at that. Look at the, and you put it on broil right at the end just to get a little char, a little like that.
Yeah. You got to have the little, like almost not quite burnt, but almost burnt on top and around the edges. If you're watching on the stream right now, you can see a picture of it. Was it good?
It was good. It's the first time I've ever tried that recipe and it made me feel proud of myself. So here you go. That's my hobby now, cooking.
There you go. Keep us posted. I want more pictures and videos of the Grant.
I'm slowly going to turn my YouTube channel into a cooking channel, and I'm going to start talking about football. Sorry.
Colby says Grant's dressed like Kirk Cousins. That's also. Oof. Did you see what Brock rolled into the 49ers game with last week? Just like a Kohl's green shirt, like literally, like could have been off the rack. He probably got it with Kohl's cash.
I like that. It's kind of like a subliminal message. Like the Niners aren't paying me anything. I'm not going to come out here and stunt like I got money because I don't. They're taking advantage of me. No, I'm just kidding. But it's funny. It's like it's a little subtle reminder. Like I make no money. I'm playing for free.
I want to start with Brock Purdy because I have said many times being a quarterback is all about the worst thing you do. And I thought Brock had one bad throw in this game. The worst thing that Brock did in this game was throw a touchdown pass to Brandon Ayuk because that was a dumb decision and it wasn't a good throw and it resulted in a touchdown. And that was the worst thing he did all day. After that, it was all good.
Yeah, he's a really good quarterback when he's winning. And I think that play sort of was like the defining play of the game. If that play could have went either way, that's like a 50-50 ball. He just threw that up. And God flipped a coin on that one, and Brandon Ayuk came down with it. But like, if that had gone the other way, like it could have, the 50% other chance that it could have gone the other way.
Yep.
I mean, the Niners still would have won because the Jaguars were still going to score 3 points. But still, like in games where these blunders, where he isn't so lucky, and he falls behind, he's just not the same quarterback. Like he's a very good quarterback on this team in this system when he's tied or winning. But once it's time to drop back and pass over and over and over again and come back from a deficit, that's not his game. And maybe it's not. I mean, not many quarterbacks can do that well. That's the highest degree of difficulty of quarterback play. But this guy's, leading the league in quarterback rating. People talking about him like he's the best quarterback since Steve Young on this team. Like, I don't know about that. He's a lot like Alex Smith.
We don't have to decide right now. Like, let's just, one thing.
No, you have to decide right now. Make up your mind. Make up your mind.
One thing that's popped up this week, which is so weird to me. I think I saw David Lombardi do it, and I've seen a couple, maybe it was Barrows or somebody. People are like rushing to say like, oh, Brock Purdy has 17 starts now. If you don't count the Eagles start and you count the game against Miami where he didn't start the game, but he came in early, now he has 17. It's like, just wait a week, and then he'll actually have 17 like real starts that we can talk about. But people are like racing to do it because they want to tell you what Brock's stats are after a full year, because now that means we know what he is. And I'm still of the opinion that we just wait, just let it play out. We don't have to decide.
I think it's scary that he has such a disparity between the first 3 quarters and the fourth quarter, his stats, winning and losing, his stats, play action and non-play action. I think he has huge splits there, and I think it paints a picture of a guy who is, again, a great fit on this team. But is he going to win a Super Bowl? Don't know. I think a Super Bowl winning quarterback has to have the ability to bring you from behind. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's examples of quarterbacks who didn't do that, but I feel like that was a while ago. I don't know. Maybe he'll get more opportunities in these situations and improve. Maybe that's something. He just has been in so many blowouts that a close game in the fourth quarter is new to him, and he doesn't exactly know how to handle it. But I know he was in a lot of close games like that in college. He didn't necessarily do so well. He lost a lot of games in college and turned the ball over a lot. That's my only thing with Brock. I know when they're up 10-0, you can count on him to like seal the deal. He's not going to pull a Jimmy Garoppolo and, what did Chris Berman used to say? Snatch victory from the jaws. No, snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Jimmy would do that. Brock doesn't do that. So good for him. Sorry.
No, I agree with you. I think it's to his credit that he hasn't been in a lot of close games. Like, that doesn't just happen. He's a part of the reason that is the case.
Let's let him hang around for 3 quarters. No, you don't want to do that. Give him credit for putting him away.
How about we just win by 30 points? Goldberg says, Grant sounded so ridiculous advocating to bench Brock and start Sam Darnold.
Well, thanks. At least you paid me $5 though. Here's the thing. Well, I think it was for Rob. All I said was after 6 days after a concussion, they didn't have to bench Brock. They could have played Sam Darnold, still lost to the Bengals, and at least seen what you had in him, and maybe protect Brock Purdy from getting his head snapped on the ground like that happened at the end of the Bengals game. But they didn't do that, and he bounced back. So good for Brock. And I didn't say, hey, Kyle, bench Brock at the bye week. I just asked him, would he consider it? And you know what? I bet he did consider it. I bet part of him was like, should I do it? And he was like, no, it's Sam Darnold. Let's move on.
Should I? Oh, wait, that's right. It's
still Sam Darnold. Yeah.
So, yeah, like we talked about before the game last week, would you rather them win a close game or win a blowout? I was obviously happy with just the win, period. I'll take the blowout win. And I think we still have to find out whether Brock can come from behind, how he plays in close games. Because like you said, he hasn't been in very many. And you know what? If they keep winning by 30 and we never find out, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, I just don't feel like they're going to win the Super Bowl that way. I just don't think it's that easy. It was that easy against Jacksonville, but that's a team they're never going to face again. They're not going to be in the Super Bowl. Maybe the Niners will. So I just I titled my stream "What We Learned About the Niners Against the Jaguars." Mm-hmm. If the Jaguars had been prepared, they didn't look prepared. They look like a young team that took the bye week off. If the Jaguars had been like real and prepared, and that had been a close game, the Niners had come from behind, I think we would have learned a lot about it. But the fact that they did what they did, I mean, we've seen them do that before. That's what they did to Dallas. So we know that, we learned that that's still in them, that when they're rested and healthy and motivated, they can do that. Like, they can make a weak team look like it shouldn't be in the NFL, and they can make a fraudulent team, realize that they're fraudulent. But they can also play down to PJ Walker. They can also play down to the Vikings when they're, when they don't feel the game is that important. Because I feel like this is a team that's played so many games, so many big games. They're looking toward the playoffs all the time. So this is an interesting week. We're going to learn something about Tampa. We're going to learn something about them when they play Tampa, because this is another game that everyone expects them to win. A lot of people pick the Jaguars. I picked the Jaguars. A lot of people pick the Jaguars to win that game. No one's going to pick Tampa to win this game. This is just another game where people are going to hardly notice, and they're going to look at the score and be like, oh, the Niners are rolling, right? And that's when these Niners have been kind of iffy. Now, they're only 2 weeks off a bye week. They should be fresh. They should be good. But I'm curious, when they face Arizona sucks. When they face Washington late in the season, are they going to be rested and fresh and ready to go? Or are they going to, blow it like they did to PJ freaking Walker? They lost to PJ Walker. Remember that? That was crazy.
Well, they did.
I remember that.
I will say.
Oh, they didn't have Trent Williams. Oh, they did. They didn't have Deebo Samuel. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't go undefeated. It's all right. I will say the 49ers losses are aging like wine. Grant. I mean, they lost to Cleveland. They just came back on Baltimore, who was looking like the best team in the league. They lost to Minnesota. Minnesota still looks good now. Josh Dobbs is like piloting them to freaking victories right now.
I love Josh Dobbs.
And the Pastronaut has the best nickname in the NFL.
The Pastronaut. Hell yeah.
So good. I mean, their losses look pretty good. Even the Cincinnati loss. I know Cincinnati just lost to D'Amico Ryan's Texans, but they're still been playing much, much better. Niners losses look pretty good.
It's true. It's interesting that the Bengals lost to the Texans. Does that mean that the Bengals aren't that good or that the Texans are better than we realize? Texans have a quarterback. Texans have a quarterback.
That kid.
That's an interesting thing. Yeah. D'Amico Ryans might be the coach of the year. I thought it was Robert Saleh, but it's looking like it's D'Amico.
It's definitely not Robert Saleh.
I mean, does Mike McDaniel have a win like D'Amico has over Cincinnati? No. I don't know.
Every time Miami plays a good team, they lose.
That's right. And I feel like Houston's beating some teams. Houston beat Jacksonville too.
Yep.
Houston's coming on. So that's a team that D'Amico is doing a great job. He's a hell of a coach.
And Bobby Slowick. We should give Bobby Slowick some love too. But to get back to the 49ers, obviously they get the win. I'm a little worried about Brock because I still think Brock has this like YOLO kind of the same thing that gets him to just let it rip down the field and make some throws where you're like, damn, is the same thing that causes him to make that decision in the red zone like we saw. Throw late back across his body over the middle of the field. He had spent all week telling us, Grant, about how he has to be smart and know the line between being reckless and, being a playmaker and all that stuff. And then the first possession of the game, they go down in the red zone on first down and he makes that throw. I think that's something that we're just going to have to live with.
I agree. I think this is who he is. He's not. I compared him to Alex Smith. That's actually a terrible comparison because Alex Smith was extremely safe and cautious. To a fault. Everyone was like, man, throw the darn ball.
Mm-hmm.
Brock is not safe, man. I mean, he might even be more reckless than Jimmy because what Brock will do is he'll extend the play. He'll go full playmaker mode. He'll start pointing people and stuff. And like, it's like, okay, man. Like, we trust you. And he does make a lot of plays. He does. The one to use check was great, but he also, I think he like bites off a little more than he can chew at times. I mean, I think he's limited, but he doesn't think so. He thinks he's Brett Favre. He thinks he's Dan Marino. I mean, he really thinks he's that good. And I think when he gets outside of structure, like that's why the Niners keep saying they don't want him extending plays. They want him sticking in the pocket and sticking to structure because the ball comes out in 2.5 seconds and he's just sort of running the offense. He's really good at it and it works. But once like maybe someone's hurt or they play a good defense and he has to do a little bit more and extend plays, I just feel like the turnover's coming. The more he has to do it.
Well, I think that's going to be the thing with him. It's how often does that instinct, whatever you want to call it, lead him to make good throws and big plays, and how often does it lead him to sort of self-destruct? And I think you hit on it. The more he feels like he has to do, the more that pendulum kind of swings over to the bad side. And so that's why he's so much better when the Niners are rolling because he will just keep it rolling.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, he threw that one pass. It wasn't intercepted. It was a touchdown. He gets a lead. He can relax. He can exhale. He can play, he can play with the lead the whole time. And all of a sudden his confidence grows and grows and grows. But what we've also seen from him is when he doesn't get lucky and that's intercepted and he falls behind, he doesn't necessarily play with the same confidence, calm. All of a sudden he presses a little bit and the next turnover happens. Or at least it has sometimes. So that's another thing I want to watch with Brock Purdy in games where he makes a mistake and he falls behind. Can he Joe Cool it and brush it off and be the hero at the end? That's the kind of thing Russell Wilson does all the time. Or is he more like Nick Mullins where he beats himself up and when one mistake turns into two? I would be that kind of quarterback if I were a quarterback, but I'm not because I chose to be a content creator, but I could have been a quarterback. It just wasn't my choice. That's how I felt.
Always strips says Grant looks like a public defender. The court assigns and helps you to still end up in jail. I'm sorry. That's good. Look, I'm no.
I totally agree.
Damn.
I walk in and they're like, damn, I'm screwed. Yeah,
still going.
10, I'm getting 10.
I agree with what you said about Brock. It's funny. Like people are there's a comment here, and of course now I can't find it, but it was laughing at us saying, you guys are forgetting that Brock is still new to the NFL. Yeah, like we're trying to figure out what he is. We're trying to decide what he is. And we've got, now, as everyone likes to say, 17 starts of data, and we're trying to figure it out here. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, and I like this question, reckless or playmaker. I feel like it depends on the context. During the 3-game losing streak, he was reckless.
Yes.
And it was like, why? Like, well, Trent Williams was out and Debo was out and he had to do more. It wasn't as simple as throw a screen to Debo or flip it to Debo. He had to do a lot more, and it didn't go so well. I feel like if he were on another team, that was a bad team or a mediocre team, I think, like we saw that in college. He was at Iowa State, not a good team. He had to lead the team, be the engine of the team, and he was reckless a lot, and they lost a lot of games. Here, he doesn't have to do that, and I think it brings out the best. He can. The Niners make him look like a playmaker because they don't ask him to make that many plays. And when he does it a couple times a game, it's like it stands out because Jimmy didn't do it. But really, you're asking him is to not do that too much, man. Like, don't put the game in your hands. You're 23, you're precocious, you're advanced, and you really got a lot going for you, man. But like, just do what Kyle tells you to do for now because you still got a lot to learn.
It's going to be his benefit, and it's going to be to the team's benefit. Official B&A Music says now there's a chance we get revenge on PJ Walker in the Super Bowl. I don't think that'll be happening because I don't think there's a chance in hell the Browns make the Super Bowl. Jack Parada says Kyle might be saving JP Mason for the playoffs, catch other teams off guard. Can we just get back to winning 2 in a row before we jump to the playoffs?
Browns should have traded for Josh Dobbs. Can we just pause for a second?
He was on their team to start the year.
Josh Dobbs is like the best story in the league this year. He's this year's Brock Purdy. I can't get enough of the Josh Dobbs story. It's great. He's been around. He's almost 30, and all of a sudden he gets an opportunity. He's like, maybe he's a new Geno. I don't know what you want to call him, but he's just a phenomenal story, and I hope it keeps going.
Absolutely. He started the year as the Browns' backup quarterback. That's the ironic thing. And then they trade him to Arizona, and then he plays well in Arizona, and they trade him to Minnesota, and now the Browns are like, crap, we need a quarterback.
See, when Dobbs or when Dobbs in particular, maybe Geno too, get an opportunity in their late 20s and they're good, doesn't it make you wonder, like, how many other quarterbacks just needed an opportunity and didn't really get one? I mean, makes me think back to Trey Lance, man. Is he ever, like, is he going to pop up when he's 27 somewhere and be like, oh, damn, Trey Lance is still in the league. He's on his 18th team and he's good. Wow, he's actually good. He just never got, I wonder if that could happen to him.
He'll be on his 18th team and he'll be on his 5th start.
Yeah, I know, right? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually he can play. It needed one team that was tanking. Why did Josh Dobbs get to play? Because the Cardinals were trying to lose, and then he was so good that he wasn't losing. They're like, dude, we got to trade this guy. Like, we're tanking. And now he's still winning with Minnesota. It's a great story.
It is, and good for him.
Major league.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's literally like, it is weird that we've had these quarterback stories, whether it was Geno Smith or Brock Purdy, and now it's Josh Dobbs. Like, weird kind of come from nowhere quarterback stories, but whatever. I'm here for it, man. It makes the league better. And also, I don't want the Lions to get the #1 seed, and the only tough games left on their schedule now are the 2 they have against Minnesota. So please keep it going, Josh Dobbs. The Lions' schedule is so damn easy. It makes me mad every time I look at it.
Well, that division is so easy. It's a ridiculous division. But the NFC is a ridiculous conference, and the NFC West isn't that much better. I mean, the only thing making the NFC West respectable besides the Niners is Seattle. They have the same record as the Niners. I don't know. What do you think of Seattle? How does Seattle stack? Here's a bonus question. How does Seattle stack up with the Niners after half a season?
It's a good question, and we'll find out in a couple of weeks because we got that Philadelphia sandwich coming up after the Tampa game. It's in Seattle on Thanksgiving, then in Philly, then home against Seattle. I still think that the Niners have the advantage. I know that Seattle and Geno can move the ball a little bit, but Geno also has like 1 or 2 plays a game inside the pocket where he has no idea where the rush is coming from, and he either makes a bad throw or he gets absolutely smashed. And I think that the Niners will still be able to move the ball against the Seahawks defense, even though they do look better this year. I mean, they beat them 3 times last year for a reason. That didn't happen by accident.
No, I will say though that the Seahawks beat PJ Walker. So there's that. They beat him 24-20.
Yeah, but that's not how it works. So the Jets beat the Bills. You know, like
that's true. No, I don't think the Seahawks are that good, man. They're 6-3, but their defense ranks 25th in yards allowed. Their offense ranks 18th in yards gained. I think their point differential is negative. Like, I don't think they're that good.
The
So
Seahawks have beaten Detroit in overtime, which is a good win, Carolina, the Giants, the Cardinals, the Browns, and Washington. So, look, you play who's on your schedule, but not exactly a murderer's row there if you're the Seahawks.
yeah, and again, their overall net points is -1. -1. Niners are plus 109. Seahawks -1, Rams -26, Arizona -87. So yeah, that's one hell. Dude, the NFC is a joke. Look at the NFC South. Saints are leading that division at 5-5 with an overall net points of plus 16. Ugh. Then they got the Tampa Bay Bucks who are coming to town this weekend. Watch out for Tampa Bay, 4-5 plus 5 overall net points. Like, this is actually, the NFC North is a hell of a division compared to these ones. I mean, you got Detroit at plus 38, Minnesota at plus 24, Green Bay at -3. That's a murderer's row right there. Oh my God, watch out for the NFC North.
Well, the Niners actually have the second best point differential in the entire league. Only the Ravens are better. Baltimore's plus 113. Then San Francisco is second at plus 109 because their losses have been close for the most part, and their wins have been blowout wins.
Right. And I feel like I'm just prepared for a lot more blowouts, a lot more early crowning of the Niners as champions, and then something happening in the playoffs. You know, something fluky that's just not their fault. And you can't blame them for it. And that really the Niners should have won the Super Bowl this year and probably would have. But, you know, the refs or an injury or this call or this bounce or this thing or this that. I'm just prepared for it. I'm prepared.
Mir Tillman says, we learned that without Debo and Trent Williams, they're 0-3, and with them, they're 6-0. It's that simple. It does almost feel like a house of cards. Like, it's amazing how they could look so good when everybody's there. But if even just one of those guys is not there, they look like a totally different team. And that does worry me a little bit.
Okay, it's like other teams have injuries too. Okay, they didn't have Debo. They did have Trent Williams against the Browns. Let's be clear about that. They lost Debo and lost to a Browns team that didn't have their starting quarterback and their starting running back. So the Niners were at a disadvantage. Then the next week, they lost to a Vikings team that didn't have Justin Jefferson. So, okay, like, if the Niners don't have those two guys, they could lose to any team. That's what any team, any banged up, mediocre, bad team can beat the Niners if Debo and Trent aren't out there. Like, what does that say about the Niners? Two guys?
That's the weird part about it. It's amazing to me that they look unbeatable with everybody. Like, unbeatable, like, get off.
But that's not realistic football. They're not going to have everybody in the playoffs.
You would think
get to win like that forever.
Right. So
they're just going to fall apart when Debo's going to miss more time. Sorry, knock on wood. Hope he doesn't, but he's gonna.
It's a really weird, strange phenomenon with this team, but I'm just going to enjoy it right now while it's here. The other kind of big story of the week, Grant, is that there's probably going to be a shakeup on the offensive line. John Feliciano was in there for Aaron Banks, played well, and Kyle Shanahan basically said that when Aaron Banks gets back, Feliciano is going to split time with Spencer Burford, who has been hideously bad this year.
About time. Look, nothing against Spencer Burford. He's young. He was a 4th-round pick. He was a tackle. He was a left tackle in college. They turned him into a right guard. Fine. I admire that he's a pro. He's a hard worker, but so is Drake Jackson. And it's a results business. And Drake Jackson didn't get it done, and he got buried in the depth chart, and that's just the way it goes. He'll get another chance next year and the year after that. Spencer Burford's had any number of chances to show that he's a serviceable right guard, and he's not. He's worse than Daniel Brunskill. Brunskill should have been the full-time starter last year. They would have been better just playing Brunskill last year, but they thought that they were grooming Burford and that he would take a leap this year, but he hasn't. And now they'd just be better off playing John Feliciano all the time at right guard. None of this half splitting. I'm sorry. Like, give Spencer Burford another chance next year like you are with Drake Jackson, but no, he's not good enough. And frankly, I don't think Colt McKivitz is either. I think what they should be doing on the right side is preparing Feliciano and Jalen Moore to play there the rest of the year. I don't care what they did in training camp. Get them ready now. Get your 5 best offensive linemen on the field, please.
Yeah, I've never really heard of a team using like a platoon system at any offensive line spot because you want continuity, you want cohesion, you want, familiarity there. It worked for the 49ers when they did it with Brunskill, though, and maybe they think it'll work this year. But if you have to split time with somebody, then why are they getting into your lineup at all? So I agree with you.
I understand, like, you do that for a rookie. Like, okay, this guy's going to be really good next year. Because that was the whole thing. Like, hey, look, Aaron Banks didn't even play as a rookie.
Right.
And then he was good as a second-year player. So with Burford, he's going to get some experience. And then he's going to make an even bigger leap in his second year because of the experience. Didn't happen. Okay, fine. Like, you're in week 11, react. Notice that John Feliciano is better than him and put him at right guard when you can. I don't know when Aaron Banks is coming back. It might be a few weeks for him in his turf toe, but eventually it seems like you got to get your 5 best offensive linemen on the field. And now that you've seen it in games, you can't deny what's right in front of all of our eyes.
I totally agree. And I hope they do it. I hope Aaron Banks heals up. That turf toe, man, that is a beast. It can linger. It can hang around. That's what got Deion Sanders, and now he doesn't even have that toe anymore. So it's a scary injury for sure. Yep. Gornison says, which Brett Favre cosplayer will prevail this Sunday, Baker Mayfield or Brocker Mayfield?
They are similar, aren't they? Kind of. Brocker. I'm going to go with Brocker. Not a big Baker guy. I
like Baker's personality. I just don't like him as a quarterback. But I always found his personality fun, enjoyable. I loved all the commercials. Like, I don't know why people got so bent out of shape about that. But as a quarterback,
I hated his commercials.
Why?
But it wasn't necessarily his fault. Like, the concept that he lives in the stadium, that's and they made like 20 of them. Like, they were like, it was clever. It's like, man, he doesn't live in that stadium, and it's a stupid concept. Please.
I like this comment from Terror Dome, YouTube channel member, which, by the way, if you want to become a YouTube channel member of my channel, please consider it. It's less than $3 a month. You get custom emojis, you get membership badges, you get priority comment response. Grant, obviously, you have YouTube channel memberships as well. So everyone, if you want to support us, please do so. Terror Dome says, can any team lose 2 All-Pros on offense and still not change? If you have 2 other All-Pros that are still there, you should be able to right the ship, though. That's the difference about the 49ers. It's absurd to say that they have that many, but you still have CMC and you still have Kittle. And, oh, by the way, the other guy you got that's not an All-Pro is Ayuk. So, like, yeah, you should be able to score.
Also, it's a funny thing. When Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel are out, the defense also falls off. It's the craziest thing. The defense apparently can't perform without Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams, leading them down the tunnel with the boombox. Would you watch the game on television?
Yep.
Was it Daryl Johnston said that, like, that Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel are the emotional center of the team, and the team needs
they did say that.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess the whole team just doesn't really feel like playing football unless Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel. It's the craziest thing.
First of all, like, every team does a cool intro coming out of the locker room. Like, I don't think it's nearly as big a deal as people seem to be making it out to be. The Browns did the 49ers intro. So, like, it's not like it's intimidating teams. I think people are way overblowing that little introduction that the 49ers do.
Daryl Johnston made it sound like the Niners have no will or passion for football without Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel in the huddle. Like, okay, well, what does that say about them?
So glad Daryl Johnson's going to be on the call this week too.
I'm sorry. Nothing against Daryl Johnson, who might be a big fan of the show, might be watching right now, but, like, I wasn't a super big fan of his call last week. I thought he kept saying the word resiliency. Yo, that is not a word. The word is resilience. What are you doing, man? I love football. People just make up words and stick to it for the whole broadcast. Like, someone needs to tell them that's not a word.
Well, that's like our boy John Lynch.
Convicted.
He loves convicted.
And no one noticed until my dad said it. My dad's always a stickler on that. He's like, hold on, that is not what he means.
We just
not in jail.
Very convicted.
Oh, God.
Brutal.
John, you went to Stanford. You got to get that right.
Richie Rich 209 Grant dresses like a substitute teacher. Hello, I'm Mr. Cohn.
Yeah. Boo! Sorry. It's true, though. On my forehead like a dork. I'm looking like a total jerk over here. Sorry. Drank too much coffee. I need to drink more water. It's the issue.
It seems like it. Let's talk about the defense. Obviously, they had a bounce back week, a huge bounce back week. Steve Wilkes was on the sideline, which the ironic thing to me about that is Steve Wilkes is on the sideline, yet Kyle Shanahan said after the game that it's the most overrated thing in the world. It's like, okay, Kyle, but you're the one that put Steve on the sideline.
So what are they saying? Is that basically saying, like, hey, you guys told us to do it, whereas we're essentially just appeasing you? That's kind of what it felt like. hey, man, everyone's telling us we got to do something. We don't really want to change anything.
I
Let's, rearrange something that's totally meaningless and add Chase Young. Kind of
I
feels
think
like, let's get people off our back.
I think that I wouldn't be shocked, and maybe you're in a position to know this more than me. I have a feeling some of the vets, those wily vets on the 49ers, I think they went to Kyle and said, we want him on the field. And I think that's why Kyle did it. Not because fans were screaming about it, because the calls came from inside the house.
There's one more possible interpretation. And if I'm wrong, I want to apologize in advance because I don't know. But there was a relay system of communication, right? It went Steve Wilks to Johnny Holland to Fred Warner. That's how the play call went. And it's possible that the issue wasn't necessarily Wilks. The issue was the steps, that there was 3 instead of 2. Or maybe Johnny Holland wasn't doing something correctly. And instead of criticizing Johnny publicly for doing something not so well that he shouldn't have been doing in the first place, they just put it on Wilks or took it themselves. Like, who knows? It could be a million things. But maybe just streamlining the communication process, getting Johnny Holland out of it. He didn't ask to be part of it. And just getting Steve Wilks, directly talking to Fred Warner. That seems like it couldn't hurt, but I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Right. I think the much more impactful changes that they made are, number one, getting Isaiah Oliver the hell off the field because he was terrible. And number two, going with some 5-man fronts, going with some disguise before the play. They had one play with Bosa and Chase Young, or Bosa was in the A gap. They had another multiple plays where both Greenlaw and Warner were right up on the line of scrimmage. I loved it because that gave the pass rush just that extra beat to get home and disrupt Trevor Lawrence, and they did.
Yeah, that was big, but there was also the big admission. The secondary is where I'm looking because I feel like the secondary is what unlocks the entire defense. And they finally went back to what they did week 1. If you remember week 1, Ambry was playing. They had Lenore starting outside, and the nickel, he would go to the slot, and Ambry would come on the field, and the Steelers didn't really figure out that he was out there or who he was until the end of the first half, and they went after him, and the Niners benched him at halftime. Never saw him again. Now he's back. And again, I don't think the Jaguars either knew or had the personnel to do anything about it. Like Calvin Ridley, no one's scared of Calvin Ridley. And Christian Kirk, more of a slot guy. So it worked last week, but are they going to get away with that week after week? I don't know about that. He's got to cover Mike Evans now. They're not going to let him off the hook unless all of a sudden Steve Wilks has Travarius Ward sort of following around, shadowing Mike Evans wherever he goes, which is possible. But I think you're going to have to do stuff like that. Otherwise, are they going to be going back to Isaiah Oliver? I mean, that whole conundrum there, letting Jimmy Ward go and bringing in Isaiah Oliver, I don't think the Niners are off the hook with that yet. I think they're still going to lose games because of that decision.
To me, it comes down to, can you get league average play out of whoever it is, whether it's Ambry, whether it's somebody else, whether it's Samuel Womack, if he gets the nod when he comes back. Just give me average play, because right now what they have is a liability. Even Ambry Thomas, I know he had a pretty good game, but, he also let up a couple of completions and had a penalty, which he had like one of the most brutal penalties, clearly a flag, and they throw it, and he's got his arms out. Like, what, me? It's like, dude, you weren't even looking at the ball, and you were mugging the receiver down the field. But give me average play at that spot, and I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, but the problem is I'm not sure they're going to get average play at that spot. It sounds so simple. If they get Jack Jones, maybe. But Samuel Womack, I've seen Samuel Womack play. He's a lot smaller than Ambry Thomas, and his coverage is a lot tighter, but it's too tight. He commits a lot of penalties, and even when he's mugging the receiver, he doesn't make plays at the catch point. At least he didn't in training camp or preseason. So to me, he gives up a lot of big plays and penalties. And then you got Darrell Luter Jr., who's a rookie who really hasn't played since minicamp. He missed all of training camp and the preseason. And he's just going to step in on a playoff team down the stretch and say, I got this. Ambry Thomas, watch this. Like, I don't know. Maybe he will. But saving that, I don't know that Samuel Womack is necessarily going to be the solution. I don't know if they have a solution, and that's kind of scary. Wow. It ain't Isaiah Oliver. I know that.
Yeah, definitely not. Josh Wyatt says it's not Debo or Trent. They lost Christian McCaffrey against the Browns, and he averaged 3 yards per carry the next 2 games, looking slow and banged up. The bye week helped, but what was that nonsense record chasing in the fourth? I totally agree with the end of that. I killed Shanahan after the game, and everybody jumped down my throat because the Niners won, and you wanted nothing but happy times. But him force feeding McCaffrey in a 31-point game when your Super Bowl hopes rest on 23 shoulders was absurd and unnecessarily risky.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like the priorities are messed up. You got to have your priorities straight in life. And like they don't know what their priorities are right now. Are your priorities get Christian McCaffrey, some accolades? Get him a MVP, offensive player of the year? Like, cool. Or is your priority to win the Super Bowl? Because if that's your priority, then it seems to me that your goal every week would be to use Christian McCaffrey as little as possible and still win. Because you're going to save him. But if you're trying to get him awards, which I guess you could take, credit for vicariously, like I coached him, then just give him the ball as much as possible and win by 30 and say, that's a feather in my cap. I just think that they had an opportunity out of that game, winning big with him having like 12, 13 carries and 6 catches. That's a win. That's a win. Now you can go into next week feeling like, man, he's still fresh. But now you empty the tank, and we've seen what's happened with this in the past. I think it was a bad decision.
It's hilarious to me that they were like, oh, we were so tired and beat up, we needed the bye week. It's like, well, you had an opportunity to give this guy 5 fewer touches, take 5 fewer hits, and instead you tried to get that stupid record, which nobody even knew about before Christian McCaffrey went on this run. Nobody had any idea that Lenny Moore had the record because ultimately it doesn't matter. But I think I think it's a good thing now that it's over. Now you don't have to force feed McCaffrey. Like that's gone. You can spread the ball around. It's almost like a weight off their shoulder. So I think it's a good thing that the streak is actually over.
And it's like, you need to learn how to win different ways. And the Niners win pretty much one way, feeding McCaffrey, taking a lead early and playing good defense. But it'd be nice. I mean, and like, look, when they get to the playoffs, that's how they're going to play. It's going to be all about McCaffrey. They're not going to be shy about feeding him the ball. That's great. But do you need to do that in mid-November? Or would it be better to maybe not do that? I'm not saying don't use McCaffrey, but like maybe feature other guys, other weeks, and see if you can win in new ways while preserving your best player so you can use him the way you want to use him in the playoffs. I mean, right?
I'm on board. You convinced me. McCaffrey had 16 carries in the game, 6 receptions. Elijah Mitchell did have 8 carries, which I liked, which I thought was good because that's probably the most they've gotten another running back involved. But he could have had more and McCaffrey would have had less if they weren't trying to get him that record.
McCaffrey didn't need to play in the fourth quarter.
Agreed.
You know how Steph Curry often is like just on, well, when he was younger and the team was great, he would just not play in the fourth quarter. That should be what the Niners do. What are you trying to prove? You won the game. It's over. It doesn't matter what the numbers are anymore. Get to the Super Bowl. Get your guys out.
Frank Tom Ocean, YouTube channel member, says Fred Warner said he's coming out with the boombox this week. Great. On the list of things that worry me, I mean, I could care less who's coming out with the stupid boombox to start the game.
Oh, there's a bunny over there. What's up, bunny? Man, the things you see when you sit outside. Little bunny.
Matthew Sanders. Matriculation means enrolling in school. Aggressiveness when they mean aggression. Also, anything that comes out of Stephen A. Smith's mouth on most days.
Did you also notice that anytime a football announcer during a game refers to a tight end, he always calls him the big tight end, as if some teams have small tight ends. It's like, oh yeah, you had to remind us that tight ends are larger than wide receivers every time. Notice that.
Tight end.
The big tight end. The big tight end. The big tight end. Like, thank you.
No one's like the 5'10", 140-pound tight end. That's not really a thing.
Yeah, you didn't have to clarify. We know.
Matthew Sanders says Jack Jones claimed off waivers by the Raiders. Yes, I know a lot of 49er fans were hoping. So if you don't know, now that we're past the trade deadline, anybody that gets cut has to go through waivers. So even if John Lynch wanted him and put in a claim, it goes by record. And the 49ers have one of the better records, so they're at the bottom of the league. And also, every other team that's ahead of you can look and say, oh, the Niners probably want this guy. We'll put a claim in on him so they can't get him. And so the odds that the 49ers got Jack Jones were pretty slim.
It just shows you how much harder it is to get a quality corner than a quality edge rusher. The Niners say it all starts up front, and sure, it does. You can get edge rushers all the time. Good ones, guys who were first-round picks, and you can get them for pretty cheap. Corners, I mean, good luck. Good freaking luck finding those. And it's not because it's a more important position. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's a harder position to play. You tell me. But I think it's a harder position to play.
I couldn't do it. I mean, I can't do anything, obviously.
You could do it.
But
don't think that way. You have to have a can-do attitude, Rob.
I could have a can-do attitude all I want. As long as I'm 5'10", 140, soaking wet, I can't do anything.
5'10", 140?
5'10", 140.
I thought you were like 6'3".
No. This is as close as I could get to the National Football League. Official B&A Music says, I like thick tight ends. All right. Good for you. By the way, we got a little breaking news. Nick Bosa is the NFC Defensive Player of the Week, joining who as the only other 49ers player to win the award 5 times. This is kind of surprising. It's a weird name. You'll know the name when you hear it, but you would never think that this person would be a 5-time.
All time? Like all time?
All time.
Oh. Wow. Okay.
Safety.
Ronnie Lott? Merton Hanks. Yes.
How crazy is that?
Merton Hanks intercepted a lot of passes, man. Merton Hanks was very good.
Yes, he was.
How about that?
Waynesy says Stats is a beast at Madden, though. I am a beast at Madden. I'll be doing the 49ers Madden sim this week. That'll be up on the YouTube channel as well. Stay tuned for that. A lot of Alden Smith guesses. Yeah, you would think Alden Smith, but no, apparently it's Merton Hanks. So that's really weird. Also, it's Eric Armstead's birthday today.
Happy birthday, Eric Armstead.
Did you see Eric Armstead call out that Jags lineman for a dirty play? Like, if Eric Armstead's calling you out for a dirty play, you must have done some shady stuff.
I don't know, man. He's called me out so many times, and I feel like I didn't deserve it. So, I don't know. I'm on Brandon's shirt side.
Wow.
I didn't see what Surf did. I should probably take that back.
Yeah,
before
I need to actually go back and watch that because I had forgotten about that.
I don't know.
Do you think that the defensive stuff, like that they found it, right? That they figured it out and then this is what they're going to be going forward? Or do you think it's like, hey, they changed some stuff, but also the Jags can't really pass block, which is true?
Yeah, it might have been a matchup thing. So it's like they felt good playing press man coverage. Cool. Like you're not scared of Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. That's a no-brainer. Plus, you're going up against a team that throws a bunch of screens and has a terrible offensive line. Like that was made to order for the 49ers. But what's going to happen when you go against Philly and they have the best offensive line in the league and A.J. Brown and Ambry Thomas on the field? What you did against Jacksonville isn't going to matter. It's a totally different matchup. And you might not even want to play Ambry Thomas in that matchup. You might feel like, you know what? The Eagles don't really have a great slot receiver. Let's play Isaiah Oliver and see if we can get away with it. You know, I don't know. We'll see.
Well, don't worry. We will absolutely find out. 187 says, I'm 43 today also. So happy birthday, 187. Appreciate you. You're in a lot of the streams I do, and I'm sure a lot of the streams you do as well, Graham. Got to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For sure. 187.
So if I have to ask you for a prediction for this week, Niners-Bucks, are you predicting another 49er victory?
No, I'm predicting the 4-5 Bucks to come into town and beat the horse. Yeah, absolutely. The only way the Niners lose this game is if they do what they did during the losing streak and sort of not take it seriously, pace themselves, look ahead. I don't think they're going to do that in week 11. I think they're past that. I think the Niners have done this so many times. They've been together so many times. They're an older team. They sort of pace themselves in the first half of the year. They will sit guys who are sort of maybe injured they did that. They'll do that in the first half of the year. Now, if you can play, you got to play. And I think all these vets who make a lot of money understand the time for pacing themselves is over. They've kind of flipped the switch, and I expect them to smack Tampa this weekend because they can and they should if they want to. I don't know. They messed around for 3 weeks. If they lose to Tampa, something's wrong. Something's super wrong. I don't expect that.
I don't know if you thought this. Fred Warner in the huddle, in the locker room after the game said, quote, I think it's safe to say we learned our lesson. From here on out, it's one game at a time. Let's go get it next week against Tampa. That's what he said to the team as he was breaking down the huddle in the locker room after the game. So that completely backs up what you're saying. Like, basically, they messed around and found out in the first half of the year, and now it's all gas, no brakes, to go back to an old Robert Saleh saying.
Yeah, it's like when they beat Dallas, they had this attitude like, well, we just, aced our midterm.
Right.
We got nothing really to worry about till the final. We got the Eagles once, but essentially we know we're going to be in the Super Bowl, if not the NFC Championship game. And it's like, can we hurry up and get there? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the kind of attitude that will humble any team. And they still have a long way to go. They got Tampa this week. Will you slip back into old patterns? And that's what scares me about the Niners. They're so quick to say, like, we learned our lesson. We're better for it. That's behind us. It's been a week. It's been a week. Have you changed in a week? Maybe. Prove it again. Do it again. Don't pat yourself. Can you stop patting yourselves on the back? You've been doing it for 4 or 5 years. Stop.
And also, like, if you get up by 30 points in the fourth quarter, rest everybody because you got to play on the short week on Thanksgiving in Seattle. So so maybe it's even more of a good thing that the streak is over now, because if it was still going and then we got to the fourth quarter next week and McCaffrey didn't have a touchdown, like, no, get up early. That should be their mission in this Tampa game. Get up early and then give Sam Darnold like a half of football. That's the way.
Yeah. Oh, or at least a quarter. In the fourth quarter, I don't care if the Niners are up 20 points, which they've been a lot.
Yeah.
And we should see Darnold, Jordan Mason, Ronnie Bell, like, get Trent Williams the hell out of there. Come on. Obvious. And if Kyle does it and, his point differential suffers as a result, I'll think higher of him.
I agree. I know he got so scared because the Lions almost came back last year. I don't care, man.
Why? That was 2 years ago. Sorry. And that was because George Kittle literally fumbled an onside kick. George Kittle. Kyle didn't do anything wrong in that game. It was Kittle's fault.
Yeah, it was 41-17 at the 2-minute warning, and the Lions ended up having the ball in their hands with a chance to tie the game at the end. But you're right. It was a fluke. But he always goes back to that game as like, see, that's why I can't take anybody out. It's like, dude, first of all, disaster happened and you still won. So if anything, that should tell you that you can take people out. Hopefully he does. People are predicting 89-3 scores in the chat. The Shaw says, where's Jair Brown? Why is he not playing? I don't know. I don't have any other deeper analysis.
My theory is that they may have drafted him not to replace Gibson, but to replace Hufanga. And you say, why would they replace Hufanga? Well, Hufanga was an all-pro last year, and all-pro safeties make $15 to $20 million a year. And I don't know if the Niners have budgeted that for Talanoa Hufanga. Now, I don't know that he's going to get it because he's kind of coming back down to earth. But if that's what he can get on the open market, and the Niners aren't budgeting to spend that much on a strong safety, maybe they'll feel like, you know what, we'll get another one and see what happens. Because, I mean, to me, Jair Brown with his 4.7 40-yard dash kind of profiles as like another Hufanga, not necessarily a compliment to Hufanga. But I don't know. Maybe they could complement each other.
Hufanga plays differently than I think most people play, though. Like, he does have that sort of very instinctual kind of good feel for the game. He seems to be, when a ball gets tipped, Hufanga's there. Like, he's always around the ball. To me, that's a quality that not everybody has, and it's not easily replaceable.
But would you spend $15 million a year on Talanoa Hufanga?
No, I would not.
No. And I think the Niners sort of realize that. I think a lot of people look at that all-pro he had last year as a little fraudulent. Like, did he deserve it? Was he really an all-pro safety last year? Did he make splash plays on a great defense? And is he associated with Troy Polamalu? Things like that. So, whatever, he's going to get paid big bucks. And the Niners, they're going to have to pay Brandon Ayuk and Aaron Banks. And maybe they just feel like, we like Talanoa. He's a great pick for us. And on a rookie deal, he's a bargain. But we're not going to. When have they ever spent that kind of money on a safety? That just might be a position they're not willing to spend on.
Could be. Or it could be a hedge also. Like, maybe they hope they can get Hufanga back, but at least that's their insurance, so they don't have to.
That's true.
Break the bank. We'll find out either way. But I agree with you. I think the Niners should win and win big against Tampa Bay. And then you'll be in a good spot. You'll be 7-3. You'll be going into the tougher part of your schedule, the Seattle part of the schedule. And I think if you win 2 out of those 3, you'll be in a great spot at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this team's going to the playoffs. They probably blew the opportunity to get the number 1 seed, but that's not, finished yet. And they're probably going to have to win some games on the road in the playoffs. They can do it. It's the same. It's the same shit. I feel like I'm watching a show on HBO and it's season 8 and there's like a new bad guy and there's a new guest star, but essentially it's the same. I mean, it's like The Sopranos, right? Every season of The Sopranos is the same. Great show, but it's always like some other mobster is in town giving Tony a tough time. What's Tony gonna do about it? Every season. Oh, he's out of jail. Oh, it's his cousin. Oh, no, it's his sister. It's like, okay, here we go. And Tony's stressed. Oh, he's stressed, man. He's got stuff at home and he's got to go to therapy and he's having panic. Yep. Love it. Love the thing. And that's the Niners formula. They are the Sopranos in the NFL. It just didn't work out so well for Tony. I just ruined the end of the Sopranos. I am so sorry.
Can I
Sorry.
That's something?
Yeah.
Didn't really like The Sopranos. Watched a couple episodes. Didn't do much for me. Turned it off. Never really watched it.
All right. Nope. Hey, teach his own.
I've seen a lot.
I don't have to convince you that Sopranos. Some people enjoy the Sopranos. That's 98% of the population. You're in the other 2%. I respect it.
Look, I've seen a lot of mafia movies and TV shows. Okay. First of all, my last name is Guerrera. So yes, I'm into all that stuff. Casino, Goodfellas, Departed, all that stuff. Like, was the Sopranos that different? Yeah. No, never really did it for me.
I just don't see how you could like Goodfellas and Casino and not like The Sopranos. Like, that's catnip for anyone who likes those two movies. But that's just me. I don't know.
It's a fair point. It is a very fair point. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the show. Thanks, everybody. Please like and subscribe to both YouTube channels, the Gold Standard Network YouTube channel and Grant Cohn's YouTube channel. Also, please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Network podcast feed. If you want to support the show, the best thing you can do, leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Let's sneak this one in here before we go. James Walsh says, I'm 35 and was watching highlights for my favorite running backs from childhood. We had some great running backs in our time. Today, kids have the quarterback, wide receiver. They don't know running backs. Fair.
That's true. When we were kids, there were some incredible running backs. Some of the best athletes in the league were running backs. Fred Taylor, Corey Dillon, Priest Holmes. Remember Priest Holmes? Man, he was good.
Yes.
And there were guys like that all the time. Garrison Hirsch was phenomenal. He was really good. I like just naming running backs. Sean Alexander. Marshall Faulk.
And
remember how good Marshall Faulk was? He was like Christian McCaffrey, but better.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
What's up, Bunny?
The best athletes are wide receivers now. And I get it because they make a hell of a lot more money and they take a hell of a lot less punishment. So it makes sense. I would do the same thing. If my kid was ever good enough to play football, the last position I would tell him to play is a running back.
I think it's smart that Deebo Samuel gets to say he's a wide receiver and get paid as a wide receiver, even though he's not a wide receiver.
Hey,
Christian McCaffrey should do that too.
He was back and they won. So I'm not questioning it. Okay. All right.
What's up, Bunny? Man, that bunny is chilling, man. I've never seen a bunny just hang out like that. What do you know that I don't?
I'm going to let you go hang out with that rabbit anyway. Have a good rest of your Wednesday, everybody.